Good morning. We are going to be today adding and subtracting fractions when they do not have common denominator. And today we're going to be using a strategy that may be different than you did in younger years. We are not going to be adding and subtracting today with mixed numbers. We're going to be converting them to improper fractions, which may help you on your algebra journey. So first of all, in order to find common denominator, you have to remember how to rewrite fractions. And we have one up here that says 2/7. If you were going to rewrite this fraction with a denominator of 21, you would ask yourself, what do I multiply 7 by to get to 21? Of course, that is 3. So whatever you do to the denominator, you also have to do to the numerator. So that would be rewritten as 6/21. Same fraction, just rewritten with a different denominator. The next one we have is 5/8. And if we were to rewrite it with a denominator of 48, we would have to multiply 8 times 6. So we do the same thing to the top. So that fraction would be rewritten as 30/48. Two more examples. 3/11, rewritten with a denominator of 44. You would multiply 11 times 4. You would do the same to the top, and that would be 12/44. And the last one, which I cannot see, let's move that over there. 2/5 with a denominator of 45 would be multiplying 5 times 9. So if I multiply the 2 times 9, that would be 18. So you're going to be doing this to rewrite with common denominator. All right, so what does this look like when we are doing an addition problem? So up here we look and we have the denominators of 6 and 4. We're looking for the least common multiple of the two. So if you think about counting by sixes, 6, 12, 18, and think about counting by fours, 4, 8, 12, you can see that the least common multiple that they have in common is 12. So we can use that as the common denominator. I'm just going to write it once for both of them. And then on top, I'm going to put the numerators. Okay, so now I have to ask myself, what do I multiply 6 by to get 12? That would be 2. So I have to multiply the 1 times 2. So now we have 2/12. Plus, what do I multiply 4 by? 4 times 3 is 12. So I also have to multiply the 3 in the numerator by 3. And that would be 9. So in our numerator, we have 2 plus 9. And our denominator is 12. And of course, that would be 11/12 when we add across. Here we have the denominators of 7 and 14. 14 is a multiple of 7, so we're going to use 14 as our common denominator. We're just going to write it once. You can write it twice with separate fractions like this, but we're going to practice today just writing it with one denominator, which may help you with algebra. All right, what do I multiply 7 by to get 14? That's times 2. So I have to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4. In our next fraction, we already have 14, so we still have the 3 as the numerator. Add across, we have 7. We keep the denominator, and then we simplify. Both are divisible by 7, so that would be 1/2. And as I flip through these slides, you can see that on the slides, I did it separately with 2 denominators. And I'm just showing you a different way today. This time we have one that is negative. So we have 8 and 6 as our denominators. And if you think about multiples of 6 and you think of multiples of 8, you would see that the least common multiple is 24. You could say 6 times 8 is 48 and use 48. That would be a bigger number. That's a racing wheel today, isn't it? Oh, there we go. But I like using the least common multiple. So I'm going to put 24 on the bottom just once. I ask myself, what do I multiply 6 by to get 24, which is 4? So I have to multiply the 5 times 4. Notice the subtraction sign out on top. So that makes this term negative. So that's going to be a negative 20. Next fraction, 8 times 3 equals 24. So we multiply 1 times 3. That is a positive 3. Now on top, I like it writing it with one denominator for this reason. I can see on top clearly that I have a negative and a positive. We're adding different signs. Different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the greater number. So when I subtract 20 and 3, I get 17. I keep the negative sign, and I keep the denominator. So the answer is negative 17/24. Don't like how this thing is always in the way. Don't know where to put it. All right, here we have a fraction and a mixed number. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rewrite that mixed number as an improper fraction because we're trying a different strategy today. So our first fraction is negative 3/10. We are going to rewrite the second one by multiplying, which is 20, adding the 3, which is 23, and keeping the denominator, which is 4. Notice there was a negative sign out in front, so that makes it a negative 23/4. Now, for the least common multiple of 10 and 4, I could use 40, but also 20 is a multiple of both of those, so I'm going to use 20. I ask myself, what do I multiply 10 by to get 20, which is 2? So I multiply the top times 2, and that would be a negative 6. In our next fraction, 4 times 5 equals 20. So we're going to multiply 23 times 5. That may not be one that you have memorized. So we can go over here and figure out, and it would be 115, a negative 115. Now I can see I have same signs on top, same signs add and keep. So 115 plus 6 is 121. Keep the sign. So we have a negative 121 on top divided by 20. And if I were to divide 121 by 20, I would get 6 whole groups. 6 times 20 is 120, which leaves 1 left over, and we keep the denominator. And of course, it was negative. So our final answer is negative 6 and 1/20. Here you can see it there also. Okay. Another one we have with a mixed number. So remember today we're practicing with improper fractions. So first I'm going to rewrite it. 12 plus 3 is 15. I keep the denominator, fourths. Now I think of a common denominator, or least common multiple of 4 and 14. It's not 14, so if I count by 14s, 14/28 would be the next multiple, and that works. That would be 4 times 7, so we have to multiply 15 times 7. Again, if you don't know 15 times 7, you can go over here to the side and find out that it's 105. I have to multiply 14 times 2, so we multiply 5 times 2, which is 10. Now we're going to add across the top, which is 115 divided by 28. This may be one that you want to use your simple function calculator for, and divide 115 by 28 to see what the whole number would be. I'm going to guess, let's see if it was 8. Let's try 3. Let's try 3 and see how close we get. 24, 6, 7, 8. I think I may be off, but that's what math is all about, is trying and seeing if it's right. See, I have 31 left over, so that wasn't enough. So we're going to go back up here and divide it by 4. This is how you do it if you don't have a calculator. So let's try 4. So that's 32. Carry my 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ah, that's much closer. This time I only have a remainder of 3. So 3 is my numerator and 28 is my denominator. So my answer is 4 and 3/28. All right, this time we're going to add some variables, which makes it more like algebra. So here's how we're going to find the common denominator. First of all, I'm going to look at the numbers in the denominator. We have an 8 and a 4. What is the least common multiple for 8 and 4? It is 8. And then whatever variables I see, I don't see one over here, but I see one right here, I'm going to write it down in there in the denominator. So our common denominator is 8n. So now I look at my first fraction. That's not erasing well. Here we go. What do we multiply 8n by to get 8n? Well, we didn't have to multiply it times anything, so we still have the 3. Now, 4, but our denominator is 8n. I have to multiply the 4 times 2 to get 8. The n is not a part of the denominator here, so I'm also going to multiply that times n. So think about it. What is 4 times 2n? Well, that is 8n, which is what our denominator is. So I have to also multiply the top times 2n. Notice the negative sign. So negative 3 times 2n would be a negative 6n. I cannot simplify that in any way, so you're actually finished right there. There's your 8n, and there's your final answer. Here we have, as the denominator, a 5 and a 3. Least common multiple for those two numbers would be 15. Now, what variables do you see? I see an A, so I'm going to write it down. I see a B, so I'm going to write it down. So our common denominator is 15AB. So if I look at this first 5AB, what do I have to multiply it by to get 15AB? I have to multiply it simply by 3. So I multiply the top times 3, and that would be 9. On the next one, I have 3 times 5 equals 15, and the B is missing. So think about it. If you multiply 3A times 5B, that would be 15AB, which is our denominator. So we have to multiply the top also by 5B. Again, we have this negative sign. So negative 2 times 5B would be negative 10B, and you are finished. You can't simplify it at that point. Here it is again. There's your final answer. Let's try another one with 2 mixed numbers. So we're going to make them into improper fractions. 18 plus 2 is 20. Keep the denominator, so 20 thirds, minus 12, 13. Keep the denominator of 4. Common denominator here would be 12. So I multiply the 3 times 4. So the 20 times 4 would be 80. I multiply the 4 times 3. So I multiply 13 times 3. If you don't know what that is, that would be 39. Notice there's a subtraction sign, so it's minus 39. So now we just have to subtract 80 minus 39. And if you can do that mentally, fantastic. If not, you can do this way, and it's 41. So that's 41 twelfths. Now, if you can count by 12s, 12, 24, 36 is the closest you can get to 41, so that's 3 wholes. And 41 minus 36 would be 5. So our final answer is going to be 3 and 5 twelfths. This is another with the same example. This time I used mixed numbers and not improper fractions. The video is getting a little long, so I'm going to try to get here to our last one right here. We have a whole number. So we have 7. Forgot to push the right button. So we're still going to make these into improper fractions. So 7, as a fraction, we write that 7 over 1, minus, make it into an improper fraction, 18, 19, keep the denominator thirds. So if you look at the 1 and the 3, the common denominator would be 3. 1 times 3 is 3, so we multiply 7 times 3, so that would be 21 minus 19, which equals 2 thirds. So it can work with that as well. One more example that you're going to have on your paper. If you have this, but the variable you're solving for is on a side of the equation with another number. So right here, the n is not by itself. So to solve for n, we have to move the 5 1/3 to the other side of the equation. It's being added, so we're going to subtract 5 1/3 from both sides of the equation. That's what happens when we jump the fence. When it moves to the opposite sign of the equal sign, it changes sign. Now we can make these into improper fractions. 36 plus 5 would be 41. Keep the denominator, and that was negative. Minus 15 16/3. Our common denominator would be 9. So we have negative 41. We have to multiply these times 3. If you do not know 16 times 3, we can go over here to the side and figure out that it is 48. Same signs, add and keep. So that would be negative 89/9. How many groups of 9 can I get from 89? I'm going to get 9 groups, which would be 81, which leaves 8 left over. Keep the denominator, keep the sign, and our final answer would be negative 9 8/9. So I hope this helps you with your assignment today, and we will talk to you guys later.